Welcome back. Republicans are celebrating the passage of the big, beautiful bill, and now attention is turning to the Senate, where a rescission package is due next week. House Speaker Mike Johnson already teasing plans to pass two more significant reconciliation packages over the coming year. But the mega bill already in court over the Medicaid funding cuts to Planned Parenthood. Democrats are preparing targeted campaign ads against the bill. Joining me now is Florida Senator Rick Scott, a member of the Senate Budget Committee. Senator, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. Congratulations to you and your colleagues for getting that bill over the finish line. What's your take on the Democrat angle on this and how they're going to try to use it against you?
Well, look, they're not going to talk about the fact that we made Trump's tax cuts permanent. OK, they're not going to talk about how we've secured the border, how we're making the country safer. They're not going to talk about the fact that we made our military stronger. They're not going to talk about the things that really we did for the American public. They're not going to talk about the fact that Trump fulfilled his campaign promises: no tax on tips, reduced tax on seniors, no tax on overtime. We've done all these things. So, yeah, Democrats have nothing to run on. So they're, I don't get it. I mean, it's like they represent people, they represent criminals. They represent people here illegally. They fought us to make sure that money would still go to illegals when we have $2 trillion a year deficits. So they have nothing to run on. So they're going to do a whole bunch of lies. But we're going to do our job. We're going to figure out how to fulfill Trump's campaign promises, and we're going to get to a balanced budget.
Yeah, and I want to ask you about that because I know that $9 trillion is coming due this year, and I asked President Trump about it in terms of rolling that debt over, and he's worried about rates being too elevated, which is why he's been on Jay Powell to cut rates. Watch this. How are you going to deal with the $9 trillion that's coming due this year?
We'll just turn it over. Oh, well, let me tell you that we're going to do it this way. We're going to turn it over short term because we have a stupid person at the Fed. If he would lower the rates, but I don't want to have to pay for 10 years debt at a higher rate. And then we're going to get somebody into the Fed who's going to be able to lower the rates. We should be at 1% or 2%. If you look at Switzerland, they're the lowest right now. They're at much less than 1 point. And frankly, we should be there too, because without the United States, the whole world doesn't work. And
you teased a couple of names. You said you have a couple of people in mind as a successor to Jay Powell.
They'll all be good, yeah.
But you're not going to do that right now. So why do that? Just to put more pressure on him to cut rates?
No, because reporters ask me, do you have other names? And I say, yeah, I do. Anybody but Powell.
and would it be Kevin
It's not
Warsh?
that he's a bad person.
Yeah.
Kevin is very talented. But I don't know that it's going to be him, but he's a very talented guy. He wouldn't be doing what Powell is.
Senator, what are your thoughts on this in terms of the debt coming through and where rates are? Do you have an expectation in terms of the Fed right now? I mean, another thing that the Fed governors aren't focused on is the fact that the tariffs have been bringing in, what, $100 billion in revenue when you look at it over a yearly basis?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. I think Jay Powell's been a disaster. Look at the fact that, for the first time ever, the Federal Reserve loses $100 billion a year, where he's got a balance sheet now that's worth $1 trillion less than his liabilities. And he did this. He's built a balance sheet that doesn't make any sense. So I think what we have to do is we got to get a Fed chairman that understands we've got to reduce the balance sheet of the Federal Reserve. We got to stop the Federal Reserve from losing money every year. And we've got to look at what's happening. Trump has done the right thing on these tariffs. He's getting American jobs back. People are investing in this country again. So I'm very optimistic about what we're doing, but we've got to get a new Fed chairman.
Well, he sent more letters on tariffs to 8 countries yesterday, including Brazil, the Philippines, and Sri Lanka. The president is saying he's going to institute a 50% tariff on Brazil, partly over what he described as Brazil's insidious attack on free elections and free speech on Americans. And he called the trial against the former president there, Bolsonaro, a witch hunt. Senator, your reaction?
Well, the trial is a witch hunt. It clearly is. And you look at what's happened in free speech in Brazil, it really scares you. But I was in Europe a couple of months ago, and what I told all the European leaders I met with is, here's where Trump is. One, He wants American jobs. If you want your workers in your country to sell into America, then we're going to be able to sell into your country. You're not going to have unfair restrictions on us. And number two, if you want to be an ally to the United States, then you're going to have to put up your own defense dollars first. We're not going to be the policeman for the world. We're going to do everything we can to help you, but you got to do your part. So I think Trump is doing the right things for American jobs. Lula is doing a horrible job for Brazil.
Yeah. Let me go back to immigration, because you mentioned it earlier in terms of the money going toward the border and the bill. 4 people are now under arrest for allegedly attempting to sabotage a border patrol operation near L.A. Attacks on immigration agents are surging, Senator. As we're getting more details about these suspects accused of attacking a Texas ICE facility on the 4th of July, the attackers reportedly fired 20 to 30 rounds from an AR-15 style rifle before it got jammed. An alleged MS-13 gang member, a kingpin of the MS-13 gang on El Salvador's top 100 most wanted list. He's wanted for 5 murders. He was arrested by ICE in Omaha, Nebraska, Senator. I know you and Senator Bill Hagerty are coming up with efforts to prohibit these illegal aliens from being counted in the U.S. Census. I want to get more on this because the Democrats really, we've talked about this in the past, want to actually change the census. What do you want to do in terms of the illegals being counted in the census?
Well, illegals should never have been counted in the census. Okay, the census should be American citizens. And only American citizens. So our bill would say in the census, we're not going to count people that are illegal. We're only going to count American citizens. So a state like California that has unbelievable numbers of illegals, they would probably lose electoral votes and they would lose congressional members. And it's not fair to the rest of the country that they get higher representation because they have more illegals. And it doesn't make you mad every day when you hear these stories of what the Democrats have done and Biden are bringing all these criminals, these gang members, these drug sellers into our country, allowing these terrorists into our country. Then you got the guys like Mandami who it wants New York to be a sanctuary city, and they're more focused on helping illegals and criminals than they are about helping American citizens.
Why?
They have lost their minds. I have no idea. Nobody in D.C. can explain why they're putting all this effort into illegals and these criminals. To go down to El Salvador and say, and you want this criminal to come back to the United States. I don't want him ever to come back to the United States. I want him out of this country.
Yeah. Senator, thank you so much for your efforts on this. Good to see you, sir. Thank you.
Nice seeing you, Maria.
Senator Rick Scott on Capitol Hill. Stay with us. We'll be right back.